There's no quicker way to sour a horror audience than by hitting them with the same cliche that they have seen a billion times ad nauseum, or draining sympathy for the surviving characters by just making them behave stupidly. Simply put, some things in the horror genre have overstayed their welcome, folks. So I am Gareth, you are watching What Culture Horror, and here are 10 annoying movie tropes that can ruin a horror movie. Number 10, uncharged phones / no signal. Oh, how modern tech has evaporated the fear of isolation, eh? Up until the late 90s, horror movies could easily strand characters without a payphone nearby. And the lack of contact with the police didn't need much explanation, really, as shown in the likes of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Hills of Eyes. However, pesky mobile phones pretty much solved that problem in real life. Stranded in the middle of the desert with some creepy hillbillies eyeing you like you belong on a spit? Well, just pull out your phone and call 911, problem solved, really. So now, for the past 2 decades, we've had the obligatory scene where a group of teens are stranded in the woods and everybody checks their mobile phones, because that's just what you do. Coincidentally, no one remembered to charge their batteries, bring a power bank, has a signal, or data roaming. You get the picture. We live in a society where most young people are plugged into something at all times, aren't they? And the dread of being disconnected, even briefly from Instagram, is more terrifying than a maniac wielding a chainsaw. So you better believe they'd have some sort of backup plan, right? Who doesn't leave home on full charge these days? It is a tough pill to swallow for modern audiences, and one that needs to be remedied with at least some form of creativity. Number 9, brushing off the obvious. Things go bump in the night. Probably just the pipes, honey. Dead animal carcasses in the basement? Wow, oh wow, those former tenants didn't like cleaning, huh? Priest running out of the new house screaming? Well, looks like he caught a case of the runs, didn't he? Yeah, he did not like that chili. Yes, we know horror movies thrive on people just being stupid, let's be honest. But how many times do our main characters need to face the inevitable and not just, I don't know, leave? Audiences are willing to let it slide to a point. Certainly, in real life, most people will try to accept or even downgrade a situation as much as possible. For example, when that scruffy lady starts screaming that supernatural forces are coming for her on your morning commute, who else doesn't just put their headphones on? Come on, yes you do. Come on, I've seen you do it. However, there is a point that crosses the threshold of believability. If characters are so dumb as to ignore the obvious, well, you just lose involvement and stop caring for them. In a way, their fate is written by their own stupidity, so why root for them? Stronger horror films can move around this trope with subversive plot tricks. Case in point, in Sinister, Ethan Hawke's protagonist Ellison Oswalt moves his family into a haunted house on purpose as he wants to research and write a book. But the ticking time bomb aspect comes down to how long he can stay before it's too late. Likewise, Insidious pulled a great twist with the family exiting their haunted house, only to find out that it was their son who was haunted and not the property. Unlucky. Right, before we go any further, I want to know right now, what horror movie trope do you actually enjoy? Yeah, what one doesn't ruin a horror movie for you? Let me know in the comments down below. And number 8, the car engine won't start. Throughout your entire lifetime, has your car ever just stopped working on you? If yes, what was the frequency throughout your driving career outside of that rare incident? It's not many, right? Is it? Not a lot. Also, in any of those scenarios, did the car happen to get flooded when a masked, axe-carrying psychopath was chasing you just after escaping his woodland lair? It is the age-old cliche usually found in your average slasher movie. Whenever someone leaps into their car in a desperate attempt to escape, the engine just never seems to want to work, does it? Ever. Oh, and we can also add missing keys into the mix too. What follows is usually smashed glass, and if it's a hapless victim, they get their just desserts. If it's the final girl though, often she manages to duck out just in time and leads that killer to an industrial warehouse for the inevitable cat and mouse finale. It's all just an excuse to ratchet the tension for an extra beat, isn't it? or chuck some more conflict at the audience. But at this point, what would feel more unpredictable is if someone jumped right into a car and it actually, started up smoothly for a clean exit. Yeah, not as exciting, but not as groan-worthy at least. Number 7, splitting up. It is as inevitable as the sunrise at this point. A group of survivors faces an ominous situation that clearly signals stuff just got real. Whether it's the aftermath of a grisly massacre, a mysterious artifact, or even a cagey military scientist who looks suspiciously hungry for human flesh, the group stares at each other as a decision must be made. In real life, every person would just stick together like glue. They would never leave each other's sight, and certainly not venture off alone into the bloody dark. But in the movies, the go-to strategy is often, let's split up, we'll cover more ground that way. Right. Audiences tend to respond with an immediate facepalm, and this trope appears across all genres, ranging from straight-to-streaming C-flicks to high-budget productions like Prometheus, where, after the group splits up, the mapmaker gets lost and the alien expert tries to pet a hissing space snake. Yep, spoiler alert, it does not end well. Not well at all. Savvy watchers know that the setup conveniently allows the story to pick off characters one by one in drawn-out set pieces, or simply explains why no one escapes before realizing that they are the last one standing. And it feels lazy and a bit convenient. That being said, the trope can be subverted to brilliant effect. I mean, take The Thing, for example, where if you can't trust the rest of the group, then splitting up is probably the safer option. Number 6, the cat jump scare. It seems like every single suburban residence in horror movies has a stray cat epidemic. They always jump out at night from the back of a dark alley, don't they? Ready to make our protagonist's heart leap into their throat and deliver a jump scare to the audience during the slower part of Act 1. On further thoughts, spaceships, old churches, and abandoned wood cabins seem to have the same problem as well, which is it's a bit weird, isn't it? It always feels like a cheap tactic, with filmmakers ratcheting up the tension, hinting at some sort of viable threat, and then meow! No masked maniac or a ghost, nope, just a random cat leaping in from the side of the frame, the furry little son of a... It's an easy way to frighten a tense audience without the plot earning it in any meaningful way. One place where this trope gets a bit of leeway, though, is in Alien, because Jonesy the cat is a legitimate character in that film, and the aforementioned jump scare is immediately followed by one of the most iconic movie monster reveals in cinematic history, so yeah, it is getting a pass. Okay, before we go any further, if you are having a good time looking/laughing at these rather annoying movie tropes that just keep on ruining horror movies, then I've got some good news for you. If you hit that subscribe button down below, you're gonna get even more of these What Culture horror videos in your life. Yep, sounds like a plan. Do it, and then we'll carry on. Have you done it? Good, let's move on. Number 5, I've fallen and I can't get up. In the scenario of a killer or creature being in pursuit, the hapless victim, covered in dirt and bruises, makes a desperate dash for safety when, oops, a tree branch appears out of nowhere like an RKO. If you know, you know. They trip. Oh no, their momentum is lost. If only they could leap to their feet without missing a beat. Oh, they might regain their lead. After all, the pursuer is literally just walking behind them with a determined jaunt. But instead, the pursued person flails on the ground for a moment, panting, panicking, and feeling hopeless. Are they having a meltdown instead of just jumping up? Get up! What is going on? Yeah, who hasn't yelled that at the screen over the years, eh? And then received a bit of a funny look from your cat. Yep, I know, don't judge me. Now, it's one thing to throw hurdles at the protagonist to build tension or explain why a final girl hasn't just sprinted down the hallway to the nearest police station. But there's nothing more infuriating or nonsensical than a character falling and instead of immediately recovering, especially when they're pumped full of adrenaline in that moment, they just lie there having a pity party, hesitating to stand up and, save themselves. If you want to drain sympathy from a character, then this trope pretty much takes the cake. Well, it takes the cake, it trips over and then doesn't get back up. It needs to go. Be gone. Number 4, knock out the killer, then leave them. This one tends to happen consistently in the third act of a slasher or survival film. There's a massive tussle with the big bad, and all hope seems lost, and the lead protagonist is being overpowered until the security guard that we all thought was dead shows up and smashes the villain with a chair or something. The bad guy is down. Hooray! But instead of seizing the moment and, dropping a boulder on the assailant's head to ensure that they never breathe another day, the victims simply stand up and walk away. Okay. That's right, the bad guy is lying on the ground, seemingly unconscious, and they just turn their backs on them because everything's fine apparently. No tying them up, no finishing the job, no, they leave and try to find an exit, complacent in the belief that there is no way that this rogue will just get back up. We all know how this pans out, don't we? As the killer often just rises and jumps out at our heroes all over again, rinse and repeat. It's tired, it's predictable, and it feels like the writers are just padding out the third act for one last showdown. Now, the Scream franchise gets a shout out here as it brilliantly mocks and subverts this trope. In the 1996 original, when Billy Loomis lies incapacitated, Sidney Prescott puts a well-deserved bullet in his head, not giving him another chance for one final scare, no way at all. Classic and welcome stuff. Number 3, stand frozen. There's a lot to be said about the fight or flight response in human psychology. It's an instinct that inevitably kicks in when confronted with danger. Do we gear up for battle, run to live another day, or freeze like a deer in headlights? All of these are actually natural reactions depending on what our personalities tell us to do to survive. But in horror movies, it better not be the last option, folks, or the audience will just be ready to scream for a character's demise, like, oh, you silly person. This usually occurs when there are 2 characters that the plot needs to pick off. They're jogging through an isolated area, for example, and the villain leaps out and takes down one of them, and instead of the second person seizing the moment to fight back or, run for their damn lives, they stand there frozen, practically wetting themselves for what feels like an eternity. This gives the assailant enough time to finish their business and then turn their attention to victim number 2, who gasps as if they could not see it coming. What, me next? Yeah, of course it's you next. It's enough to make you switch the damn TV right off. It's as goofy as a gang of bad guys in a kung fu movie just lining up to get kicked in the head one by one instead of just overpowering the hero, which is what you would do. You'd all put your heads together and say, yeah, should we just all jump on them in 3? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, go. Alien, again, gets a pass though. Not just because it's one of my favorites. Well, okay, maybe that's a bit of the reason. Lambert's frozen reaction as the creature makes quick work of Parker actually, it feels like a legitimate character trait, really. Plus, the horrifying payoff, her death gasps echoing over the ship's audio, is one of the most chilling moments in the whole film. So yeah, it's getting a pass, that one. Again, I don't care. Number 2, arming yourself and then tossing the weapon. This one sort of applies to action films too, where movie characters just don't seem to have much respect for weaponry on screen. Once the antagonist has been dealt with, supposedly dealt with, or the situation calms down for a moment, main characters are always very quick to just drop the gun, or the wrench, or the bat, or whatever it is they're holding. Unless it's a mobile phone with no signal, of course, then they'll keep hold of that all the way through the film. I mean, a weapon's only good for 1 or 2 uses in movies. It seems a bit silly, doesn't it? In a real-life dangerous situation, you would likely have that weapon super glued to your hand, no? Even an empty gun can be turned into a hammer if needed. You just whack them on the head with it. So when the characters just drop their weapons, it feels groan-worthy, doesn't it? A nonsensical plot hole designed to make them vulnerable again, just to put them in peril moments later, instead of letting them be a worthy opponent when Leatherface pops back into the frame, like, haha, not this time, I've still got my pistol. Maybe it's a bit better than guns just jamming at opportune times. That's another trope that's very annoying, isn't it? But yeah, not much better. And number 1, the mirror jump scare. Right, look folks, mirrors are scary, just ask your pet. In fact, the mirror scare was once an extremely effective method of terrifying audiences. Thank you very much for the sleepless nights, Candyman. Until it was overused, to the point of exhaustion. The traditional trope usually involves a character in the bathroom, shown in a standard over-the-shoulder shot. They open the cabinet, everything seems normal, but once they slam it shut in a continuous take, something alarming appears in the reflection. A vengeful ghost smiling at them, a blood-stained clue suddenly visible on the wall behind. Or sometimes, if the character arc permits, their face is distorted for shock value. The list really does go on. Audiences know the drill by now. If it's a horror movie and a character is acting nonchalant around the mirror, we can see that scare coming a mile away and usually know exactly how it will play out. It is time to delete this trope and just move on, isn't it? Props to films like Oculus and Mirrors, though. While flawed, they managed to take this tired trope and wring genuine tension from multiple set pieces built around it. Not to mention, Amy Smart's literally jaw-dropping demise in the latter is still etched in several people's minds to this very day, and for good reason. If you don't know, go and check it out, and you're probably not going to want to thank me later, but you'll know what I'm on about. Right, we're at the end of this video. Now carry on the YouTube journey that you are currently on by tapping on another What Culture Horror video right here around my head. Probably. Yep, click on that. You are in for a spooky, chilling, or possibly just a bit silly ride.